got married at 28 and I'm divorcing at 29, part 10. You are more susceptible to getting yourself entangled with a true narcissist if you have a narcissistic parent like myself. Also, if people in your family are big on protecting lies and abuse and are big on family image as opposed to holding people accountable for their wrongdoing, you are being groomed by your family to accept abuse and to be silent about the abuse that you face. So my mother is pushing for reconciliation. But why would I want to reconcile with a man who not only misrepresented his sexuality to me, he performed and presented himself as a heterosexual man and explicitly claimed that identity, while secretly engaging in sexual relationships with men behind my back during our marriage? What reason do I have to reconcile with somebody who misrepresented who they were and exposed me to STDs without my knowledge or consent? What kind of mother or father encourages their child to reconcile and stay in that situation? The type of mother who never had the strength to choose herself, and the type of father who fears being exposed himself. If you have a narcissistic father like myself who only knows how to gaslight you and love bomb you in order to control you, you may have subconsciously normalized his behavior, and so that kind of behavior has become familiar to you. Often we are attracted to what's familiar. So when you come across people like your narcissistic parent or other family members who exhibit those narcissistic traits, if you haven't yet recognized narcissism for what it is, you are more likely to fall prey to their manipulation. As you all know, I'm going through a divorce. You would think that a father would be protective of his daughter and would be supportive of her. But no, not only has he called me multiple times to try to control me, he calls my friend 2 days ago and he tells her to tell me that the family is so disappointed in me. Not only are they disappointed that I'm getting a divorce, they are disappointed that I'm being transparent about the narcissistic abuse that I have faced. And he accused me of putting all the family business on the internet. And he kept emphasizing to my friend that the family is disappointed in me. The reason why he kept emphasizing the disappointment is because he knows that I grew up to be a people pleaser. His wife, who is my mother, never chose herself. She stayed married to him. They are married to this day, despite the fact that they've been separated for pretty much my entire life. The only reason that they are still legally married has to do with the fact that he's a pastor and is trying to keep up appearances. He has controlled her and manipulated her in different ways over the years, and she's fallen prey to it, and she never stood up in her truth. Now that I'm an adult and I'm choosing myself and I'm choosing to be vocal about the narcissistic abuse I've faced, my father feels threatened and my mother feels triggered. My father is trying to control me the way that he has controlled my mother over the years, but he forgets that I am not my mother. I've gotten a lot of direct messages from women who say that they want to share their story, but they're afraid that their family and their friends will turn on them. What I will say is that that is to be expected, especially if you come from a family that has historically protected darkness. But you have to remember that the truth is your power. And when people try to gaslight you and manipulate you and control you for speaking the truth and exposing darkness, that says more about them than it does about you. And if, like myself, you're from a family that likes to weaponize religion and spiritually manipulate you, you can't really expect support. My own father, the reverend, the pastor, is using scripture to silence me. People who weaponize scripture to silence you when you faced abuse are abusing their religion. That is called spiritual manipulation. You will notice these signs in friends and family members who you may have thought were perfectly normal. Anyone who's trying to silence you about the abuse that you faced is ultimately trying to protect a version of themselves that they fear could be exposed. It is not about you. They're projecting their own insecurities onto you. In response to me exposing the narcissistic abuse that I faced, in order to help the hundreds of thousands of women who follow me, my father called me and accused me of having a mental breakdown because he believes that projecting mental illness onto me will silence me. Whenever people use those tactics to silence you, that is your indication that you are doing the right thing. I'm exposing the narcissistic abuse that I have faced, and for some reason, my narcissistic father feels threatened by that exposure. So when you come forward with your stories and you're met with resistance, you have to ask yourself, why would somebody be so threatened that I'm speaking the truth and shedding light on a dark situation? That is because they feel exposed. They fear that if you're exposing your abuser, they're next. But if you have nothing to hide, and if you're a truthful and honest person who lives in your truth, in addition to that, I have my mother who's been pushing me to reconcile with the weapon that was formed against me. She confuses forgiveness with reconciliation. You can forgive, but you are not obligated to reconcile with the people who deceived you, manipulated you, abused you, and tried to sabotage your life. Also, forgiveness does not mean that you are silent about the abuse that you face. You have to understand who is criticizing you and what that means. So for myself, having a mother who never chose herself, who chose to stay married to a man who never valued her, who mistreated her and manipulated her for her entire life, She never chose herself, so she will never choose me. She will always choose the side of the abuser. She never protects herself, so she will never protect me. If you have maternal figures like that in your life, you have to understand that they are going to weaponize their tears against you. They're going to try to emotionally manipulate you. And again, this is projection, because deep down, they know that they made the wrong decision by staying. They know that they made the wrong decision by not choosing themselves. And so when they see you choosing yourself and you walking away from a situation that was harmful to you, suddenly they are questioning themselves. You choosing yourself and speaking your truth and shining light on the darkness, it triggers them. Their projections onto you come from a place of guilt because they haven't lived out the fullness of their lives because they chose to remain silent and in covenant with somebody who never honored them. When you go through situations like this and you start to expose the darkness, you start to realize who actually cared about you and who cared about you so long as they could control you. So long as you are controllable and you're able to be managed by some parents, by even some friends, they will show you care and love and affection and support. But as soon as you choose yourself and you no longer fall prey to their manipulation, you no longer fall prey to the spiritual abuse and the spiritual manipulation, as soon as you expose the darkness, they start to call you unstable. They accuse you of having a mental breakdown, and they will do anything to try to control you and keep you silent about the abuse that you faced. They will try to bully you in the most insane ways. My own father told my friend on the phone 2 days ago when he called her that he believes that my job as a lifestyle content creator is corn. What's so funny about it is that he didn't consider it corn before I was getting a divorce. He didn't consider it corn before I started exposing the narcissistic abuse that I faced. So he's attempting to slut shame me and belittle my career. And this man pastors multiple churches. That's a real man of God, right? Be very careful of religious men. And when I say religious, I mean the people who know scripture like the back of their hand, but they do not practice what they preach. These people do not have any relationship with God. A lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder hide behind faith and religion. You've seen that with my soon-to-be ex-husband, and you've seen that with my father. Please learn from my story. If you have a narcissistic parent, and if you have maternal figures in your life who've never chosen themselves, they've always chosen marriage, and they've always chosen the abusive man over themselves, you are susceptible to falling prey to narcissistic manipulation. Love bombing, gaslighting, manipulation, control, all of that has become familiar to you because that is the family structure you grew up in. A lot of women have DM'd me about wanting to expose the narcissistic abuse they faced, but they're afraid of their abuser seeking legal action. In my case with my soon-to-be ex-husband, he's threatening to pursue legal action for defamation. But what he and others with NPD fail to understand is that if what you're saying is true and verifiable, it's not defamation. In fact, attempting to sue someone for defamation when you're the one who did the harm will always backfire legally, especially when we start discovery. So emails, medical records, text messages, all of it. If you're dealing with somebody like this, don't back down, don't be scared. Remember that truth is a complete defense, so stand in your truth. When you start speaking your truth, people from their past will reach out to you. Multiple people from my soon-to-be ex-husband's past have reached out to me, and they've had very similar experiences with him. So this might become a much bigger case because of the discovery process, and honestly, I'm looking forward to it because this type of deception and marriage fraud happens too often, and I'm looking forward to making an example of this man. And for all the people he has previously harmed without consequences or accountability, justice is coming. Stay healthy and wealthy.